Fallout 76 is the most recent game in the Fallout franchise, and obviously the most controversial by a wide margin at the moment. I started off with Fallout New Vegas when that first came out. Not when that first came out. I started Fallout New Vegas in 2017, 2 years before Fallout 76 would come out, on my dinky 2003 laptop that could barely run it. I ran it at maybe 25 frames per second with mods, just the basic ones that make the game run better, still at 25 frames per second. That thing had 2 gigabytes of RAM and a processor from 2002. It was not a great first taste of the Fallout franchise. And as I upgraded and I got better hardware, I later got Fallout 3 on an Xbox 360 that I had bought a couple years ago. And then eventually I got my laptop, the one that I use for everything now. And during this time, I made it a goal of mine to buy every Fallout game in existence. I own all of them now. When Fallout 76 came out, it was a very talked about. It was very much a focus point when I got my laptop and I started exploring this stuff, and I still ended up buying it. I thought, hey, maybe in a couple of years. 2 months ago, I downloaded it just for the fuck of it. It was on my game list of games I wanted to complete that year, and I knew I would have to get it out of the way at some point. But I didn't expect it to be nearly as good, surprisingly, as I would have expected. I was expecting to go into a buggy mess with no characters, or very few at least, with terrible writing, as is sadly modern Bethesda standards these days, and the gunplay of Fallout 4, which I also don't really like. I would rather play New Vegas or 3, to be honest. But so it had everything going against it. It had everything going against it. I fully expected that I would hate this game, and once I would beat the game, I would just let go of it. Instead, what I found was a much more interesting live service game than I had expected. When you start Fallout 76, it's not a great introduction. You just get out of the vaults after making your character, and then there's the overseer telling you to come find her. That she's gone missing. She's the only person that you know. You have to go find her. And you are unleashed onto the wasteland as you would, and being that I started after the Wastelanders update had come out, there were NPCs. I had gone down to the Wayward, and that is where my journey started. Since then, I have over 120 hours in this game. I'm level 86, 85, 86 now. I have grinded this game. I just finished grinding a huge, annoying section. I hate the tadpole badges. And I subscribed to the thing for a while, to the Fallout First, and I got the camp and everything. Just because, and I wanted the premium rewards from the scoreboard. It got that bad. The only other game that I've actively bought things in or bought battle passes in is Fortnite, which I have been playing since I got this laptop. So the fact that it's convinced me to get this subscription that's even more expensive than Fortnite's just for the sake of it for a little bit, it's kind of good. Okay. Fallout is known for its RPG mechanics and known for the choices and the ever-evolving world. And while the story is sadly the weakest point of the Fallout series, as again it seems to be getting. It really didn't bother me that much because the gameplay and the events and the multiplayer aspects are just really fun. Like, it works very similarly to the Fallout 4 experience. There are legendary monsters that you can fight. There are caves to enter. There are vaults to find. Storylines upon storylines. There's so much side content in all of these games. And it's a pretty similar gameplay loop and pretty decent design-wise for the most part. I've never found myself going into generic-looking caves constantly. Every single thing that I see in this game is pretty distinct. I can tell where I am on a map just by seeing the location I'm in. The biomes are beautiful. The actual map of the game is goddamn beautiful. The sections are divided so nicely. You start off in the green area, the forested area. At least that's where I started. Where you start up in the forest area. You move up, or at least I moved up to the resorted area where there's the camps. It's kind of really shitty over there. And then I proceeded to go down to the ash heap, which is where I would say the first large difficulty spike happens. The map works so well because it guides you in a really natural way. Because the Savage Divide, which is the biome that goes straight down the middle of the map, is such an obstacle to get over that you feel inclined to simply explore the entire left portion of the map before you move on. Because it is so difficult to get up to that Savage Divide area. And so much to the point where my camp is now up there purely so that I don't have to go down every time and then find my way back up. Of course, there's fast travel too. With the way the Savage Divide splits everything, the easiest way to get to the Savage Divide is through the ash heap. So even if you ignore the top part, you're still not going to the Savage Divide until you go down to the ash heap. And then you move on and working up where you find Foundation, which are the Wastelanders, and then other characters that you have to find out about. And then you move on to the third areas, which are the Cranberry Bog and the Red Mire, I believe. The Mire. Which are both some of the most visually distinct biomes in not only the game, but I would say Fallout as a whole. The Mire has such a beautiful biology to it. It has these interesting bunkers with different people to explore, with different people to find, and different notes to find about these stories, about these connections between these bunkers and how people were surviving on their own, under their own vaults in the wasteland. And the Cranberry Bog, which is the home to some of the largest enemies in the game, and where there's sort of a mini version of a city there. It is not as big as I would like it to be, but it's so cool. And being able to explore these locations is a consistently rewarding experience, I find, because every piece of junk you find can be used. Everything can be scrapped into more basic ingredients that you can use to build up your camp, your home base, where you can put crafting stations, where you can have visitors over, where you can trade. The camp has so many things to get, and while the shop kind of messes with that, there's still, I find, enough objects that you don't really need the Atom Shop all the time. And if you get something from the Atom Shop, it's all right. But once you get rid of that like, oh, I've never gotten anything. Once you get one thing, you're like, there's not much after that. Like, there's not really a temptation to get more after that, I personally find. I have a couple just because of the subscription. I get the little items and I buy a couple things, but really they're just decent. You don't really need anything past the base game, I would say. You can play this game just without any microtransactions, without Fallout First, without whatever, and it is completely fine. It is still good. There's still so much content that you get with this game, with the quests, with the factions. The factions are so, they're not crazy, but they're good. There's the Crater, there's the Foundation, I believe it's called, and there's the Brotherhood of Steel, which came in the new DLC, which I have not gone into that much yet, but I have done the entire Wastelanders plotline, and it's fun. Like, there's so many new characters that you get to meet, and while they aren't particularly in depth, there's enough good gameplay around there to keep you going. I find myself doing the regenerating daily quests a lot more than I thought I would, and I'm weirdly really enjoying it. Like, something about the live service element with the crafting, with the other players, with the trading, it's made this very fun loop that I'm enjoying, even though I'm doing the expected grinding of any live service game. Yeah, it's a good game. Play it. Subscribe.